Hey, welcome everybody to a crash course in the Doctrine and Covenants. I'm excited. The stated purpose of this course is this. Steve Jones, read that for me.
Purpose of this course, to gain deeper insight into Christ and the restoration by exploring the content of each section of the Doctrine and Covenants within its original historical context.
Awesome. Does that sound like a good use of your time for a few days this summer? We want to go through the entire Doctrine and Covenants. Obviously, we're going to probably leave some stuff out, probably more on the content side. I hope context side is what we're going to get into deeply, and the content we'll digest a fair amount of that as well. But let's just talk for a second. I just want some of your thoughts and ideas to begin with. What's the biggest challenge of teaching the Doctrine and Covenants? Biggest challenge as compared to the other books of Scripture?
There's not really a storyline that's built within the text.
Yeah, storyline is not in the text, making it pretty challenging. Yeah, Chris,
Yeah, just to go along with that, I think you just got to dig deeper outside of the text to gain a better understanding of what's going on, I feel like.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and is that worth the price to pay, Corey?
For sure.
For sure, but it's hard. It's a hard
Yeah.
way. You have to pay a deeper price in some ways with Doctrine and Covenants. I kind of liken it to Les Miserables. You guys all seen Les Mis? Or Hamilton, if you prefer, or Wicked, if you like. These are all things that I heard the music before I ever saw the play, and I think that's often the case with Doctrine and Covenants. Is we're more familiar with the sections. We'll call the sections the music. We're familiar with the sections, but we don't know the story of the French Revolution. But you find out when you understand the story of the French Revolution, Les Mis is actually even more powerful. The music, which you can appreciate on its own, independent of the French Revolution, becomes even more powerful when it's in context, right? So it is with Hamilton. If you want to know what shot he wasn't going to throw away, you should learn something about the American Revolution, right? And the context will actually help that music be more powerful. With Wicked, that's just fun. Okay, that's just fun. What is Wicked, right? But into that play, that's what we're asking. Now, so content in context. Let me ask you the next question then that leads to, well, that this discussion now leads to is, for the Doctrine and Covenants, what are some of the best resources that we'd front load just to begin with? If you don't come to another class or you don't watch another clip, what are some resources you could go to find the context of the Doctrine and Covenants? I'll try to model this as we go throughout. But what are some of your go-to context sources? Yes, Corey, go.
Doctrine and Covenants in context.
Doctrine and Covenants in context. Tell us who wrote that book and why you would endorse it.
I was thinking of the online version of.
Okay.
Isn't that what it's called? Doctrine and Covenants in context.
Revelations in context.
Revelations, that's what it is.
Yes, and where can you find that?
Online.
Online, yes. If you go history.lds.org, you can find a tab somewhere around there called Revelations in Context. I believe it's also out to the side of the Revelations on digital scriptures. If you go to a section of D&C, out to the side, I think there's a link to Revelations in Context. That's an excellent source. What else would you go to?
The Joseph Smith Papers project.
Joseph Smith Papers is fantastic. Do y'all know how to get the context there? Can I demonstrate that one real quick? Because this one's kind of more tricky. Thanks, Seth. Let's go there to Joseph Smith Papers. If you know what you're looking for, it's not hard. But if you don't know, then you'll search around in vain because there's so much stuff on this website. So if you just go to Joseph Smith Papers, if you scroll down to the bottom here, there's actually something right here that says Correlation of Current Doctrine and Covenants with Earliest Sources on the Joseph Smith Papers website. Click on that. You have every single section of the Doctrine and Covenants listed to the left here, and the actual original document to the right. So, but it's not, you won't find the context instantly. If you just click on one, let's just do section 6, for example. It actually just pulls up the Revelation. Let me zoom out a little bit. And that's just the text of the Revelation. But if you notice up here at the top, there's a little tab that says Historical Introduction. Click on that, and that's going to give you some sweet context. So that's a great place to go pull that together. What else? Other resources?
Well, I just wondered,
Yeah.
each section has a little
Yep.
heading. Is
Yeah.
that, how does that compare with?
Typically insufficient, yeah. Typically that's insufficient in the heading to really give you the richness of what was going on. That's nice. It's kind of a gesture in the right direction, but it doesn't, I don't think, do the trick, especially as a teacher.
Is he talking about the beginning of the chapter?
Yeah, the beginning of the section,
Yeah.
introductions. I'd say those are generally insufficient to give you the richness that you want. Yeah.
Stephen C. Harper's Making Sense of
Oh.
the Doctrine and Covenants.
Parker, will you hold up that book?
Yeah, right here.
That's the one. Stephen Harper, Making Sense of the Doctrine and Covenants. Excellent choice. What do you love about that one, Seth?
It breaks down each section. It gives you context for the content. Really nice.
Well, that one does
Extremely good scholar.
super well. Yeah, what I would add to that is, not only does he introduce the context, but he also tells the aftermath, which is super nice. Yeah, so excellent. Excellent. So that's a great resource. Also, I mean, original documents, you want to find as many as you can. Stephen, you brought a book. You want to hold that one up?
Yeah, it's a different edition, but it's The History of Joseph Smith by his mother, Lucy
Excellent.
Mack Smith. But that's the original one.
Yeah, I got that one as well. I'd highly recommend that. There's nothing that can compensate for those that were actually in the history experiencing it, right? In fact, I would say that as a general principle, general rule of thumb, is you want to get as close to the original documents to like holding them in your hands as you possibly can, which is what this is so great about Joseph Smith papers. You're like looking at the original documents, and if you can get to those who are actually experiencing it, witnessing it, then that's what's going to be so powerful.
ScottWoodward.org.
ScottWoodward.org. What have you noticed on ScottWoodward.org?
Well, no, you've actually gone through and consolidated a lot of the, like for example, the Joseph Smith papers.
Yeah,
You've taken some of those and given it, I don't want to call it a summary, but like you put it in your own words.
Yes, this is Scott Woodward's version of the best resources. So when I taught the DNC at BYU, I wanted to give my students something to read before class, before they read the sections as well. And so I went through all those resources you just mentioned, and I tried to find the best of. You just click on a section. Every one of these sections of Doctrine and Covenants, click on one. There'll be something called the background, context, and aftermath. Click on that. I'll have first-hand accounts, if that's the best, added to josephsmithpapers.org. That was the most relevant, beautiful thing right there. Aftermath, Joseph Smith Papers. Susan Easton Black had something that wasn't in the other Joseph Smith Papers section. And then a history of the church. So I'll just, this is kind of my consolidation of the best of. If I was prepping a lesson and I was crunched for time, this summer I would say like read broadly, read a ton. When you're crunched for time, I would say go to the consolidated stuff. Or create your own version of this. Yeah, this is my version of that. What you think is the best of that really helps you see the picture clearly. That's what I would recommend. So very, very helpful. Good. So I think that's enough on resources, but that's what matters. In fact, we are now following in the footsteps of Brother Joseph himself. In fact, reading scriptures in context is how Joseph Smith, that's how he rolled. Here's what he said. He said, I have a key by which I understand the scriptures. He was speaking in the New Testament, but the same principle applies to Doctrine and Covenants. I inquire, what was the question which drew out the answer? See how Joseph is searching for context. What was the question? And then he says, to ascertain its meaning, we must dig up the root and ascertain what it was that drew the saying out of Jesus. And if the Doctrine and Covenants is anything, it is the sayings of Jesus in response to questions that were literally in a context of real life people doing real things that needed answering. They needed guidance, they needed revelation. And so let's use Joseph's own lens here, his own hermeneutic, to understand the scriptures. So let's get him in context. Sound good? Mm-hmm. Good. Shall we dig into our first section? Okay, trick question. What's the first section of the Doctrine and Covenants? Oh, do you want to?
We good?
You want to cut? We're cutting.